Lobo is the star of a new TV show. The all-new Lobo steps out of the salon, his hair curled to perfection as he stared down at his new, corporate-approved costume. I signed on the dotted line, and the main man always keeps his word. But you didn't tell me I gotta rock the tights, he growls at Mr. Kizit. The TV-headed executive shrugs. Ah, yes. Sorry about that, Lobo. New data from our focus groups came in and told us that there is a lower rate of attention in content featuring costumed individuals, he explains. What you mean? My costume was just fine, Lobo points out. He motions to the hazardous materials tank that currently holds his old costume. Mr. Kizit smiles broadly. I'm not sure your garments could be considered a costume. I do believe they could be lethal due to the amount of bacteria and live cultures that have been growing on them since the last time you sanitized them. Now, what do you say we make you a star? A short time later, Lobo is stomping his way through the streets of Slixton Blind, an abandoned Brutanian factory city that now serves as a hotbed of crime in the galaxy. He glances back at the floating cameras that follow him. Kizit! Are you gonna be following me around all the time in there? 'Cause I ain't a big fan of brass balls in my face all day. Or any part of the day, Lobo grumbles. The camera whirls and floats before him. Yes, this is how we'll film all your activities and communicate with you. No need for on-site producers or cameramen, Kizit explains. Lobo finally stands in front of the hideout of Brummer Jip, the first bounty to be shown off on his show. Lobo doesn't hesitate and pulls out a rocket launcher, firing a round straight into the building and blowing it up. He stands there and admires the destruction. But Kizit isn't happy. Cut! Kizit screams through the floating camera. My apologies. We very much want you to be authentically you. But legal just informed us that you must knock and announce yourself before resorting to forced entry, Kizit explains. Lobo glares at him for a moment before shrugging. Knocking only gives them a head start on escaping. But hey, you're paying me enough to keep my year's worth of bounty expertise into myself, Lobo says as he reaches down for the discarded door amongst the debris. He props it up on a pile of rubble. Thank you for understanding. If you could just read the approved statement, then that should cover us, Kizit informs him. Lobo shakes his head and sighs as he begins to bang on the door. Brummer Jip, you're hereby informed that a bounty has been put on you for failure to appear in court for the 23 felonies you've been charged with. Refusal will result in me coming the fraggin' gun a-blazin', Lobo calls as he reads the script. The camera floats before him again. Yeah, while we love the improvisation for the sake of bloopers to be sold as extras down the road, you do need to stick to the guidelines. And please remember that we are only allowed a limited number of frag uses per season. Thank you for understanding. Let's try it again, Kizit tells him. Lobo pushes the camera aside and pounds on the destroyed door again. Stop fragging with me, Brummer! Come out, or I'm gonna turn your chest into barbecue chicken and deliver you to the court like a grub livery driver, Lobo bellows. The camera floats before him once more. Oh, sorry. Can you say that again? But this time, can you say Resident Rush Driver? They're one of our top sponsors, Kizit tells him. Frag this, Lobo growls as he draws his pistols and opens fire, the rounds ripping through the remainder of the building and chewing through Brummer. Cut, Mr. Kizit sighs. Next, they travel to the High Luxor Nebula. There, Lobo is shot to pieces as he listens to all the directions from Kizit, and he ends up vaporizing this bounty as well. Cut, Mr. Kizit sighs. Next, they head to another made-up sounding random planet in some section of the galaxy. There, Lobo decides to fold his bounty in half and shove his own leg up its backside. The residents of the galaxy watch in horror. Some cover their eyes and others vomit at Lobo's antics. It doesn't take Mr. Kizit long to discover that things aren't working as they hoped. Shortly, Lobo is called into the boardroom. He sits at the end of a very long table and stares at the bullet-shaped executives. "Thank you for joining us, Lobo," Mr. Kizit says with a smile. "The board and I would like to share our gratitude for all the hard work you've put in the show, and wanted to share some of the data we've gathered," he says as he motions to one of the executives. The creature sips from a tiny cup of coffee and twists his wrinkly face into a smile.
Fisty Claws and Murder Mouth are still outperforming us in about every demographic we currently measure. All age groups, from the youngest to the unknown oldest, all agree that while they love you, they want you a little less you,
the executive tells him. Lobo raises an eyebrow and leans forward on the table. "What do they want instead of the main man?" he growls. Mr. Kizit taps a button on his remote and brings up an image on the screen. That's just it. They never know what they want. They want what we tell them they want. And then when they say they don't want that, we come up with other things we tell them they want. And so on and so on. So we've decided that their antihero needs to go up against a full-blown hero, he says with a smile. Lobo stares at the screen in shock and smiles widely. "What's this funky carp doing all the way out here?" he asks as he stands. Mr. Kizit shrugs. "That's not clear. We just know he is and someone called a bounty on him. So, want to up those ratings?" Mr. Kizit asks. A short time later, Lobo pulls up his space hog and stands on the seat. The cameras buzz around him. "Emperor Aquaman!" Lobo yells to the Lord of the Sea, who is currently floating on some sort of space starfish thing. "You're hereby informed that a bounty has been put on you for..." Lobo continues, but he is quickly interrupted by Aquaman's laughing. "Lobo! Is that you? I did not recognize you with this look," he says as he wipes away a tear. "Oh, this is exactly what we were hoping for. Witty banter. I have the show's writers coming up with snappy comebacks. Please hold for suggestions," Mr. Kizit says. Aquaman stares at them in disbelief. "Tell me the main man does not have one of those reality-esque programs," he says between laughs. He glances back at the cameras. "While I am so very anxious to hear these one-liners you are preparing for the main man, I do have a few things of import to tend to. If we can move this along to the fighting portion, I would greatly appreciate it," Arthur tells them. Lobo looks to the cameras for approval. They bob in the air. "Our producers are giving me the thumbs up on that. Feel free to proceed with the physical altercation," Mr. Kizit informs them. Arthur nods and immediately punches Lobo in the face, knocking him away. Lobo draws his hook blades and rushes back into the fight. The two exchange blows, biting and clawing at each other. An hour later, Arthur is breathing heavy as he steadies his trident. "Lobo, I will be vulnerable with you and admit that I'm quite exhausted. And by the looks of things, you are not in great shape yourself," Arthur notes as he nods to the 3 blades of his trident piercing Lobo's chest and holding him at a distance as his leg floats nearby. Lobo spits out blood. "I don't even care about the bounty anymore, fish stick. I plan on gutting you like... Lobo growls as he tries to think up a one-liner. But suddenly, the cameras are buzzing in his face again. "Cut! I have just received word that all bounties have been paused until further notice," Mr. Kizit informs him. Arthur laughs uncontrollably as he releases Lobo and continues on with whatever he was doing. Later, Lobo arrives at the OOEC headquarters. He isn't happy as he slams his fist down on Mr. Kizit's desk, cracking the alien wood. "Fraggin' cancelled!" he bellows in disbelief. Mr. Kizit shrugs. OOEC is undergoing a merger with GRP, and they want us to use our control of the bounty and bonds business to plug in their IP. We are taking full responsibility, Mr. Kizit explains. Lobo stands tall, pointing out that the show's ratings would have been sky high if they had just let the main man be the main man. Instead, you took one of the most brutal motherfraggers in the cosmos, put him in a unitard, and made him all committed up, Lobo snaps. Yes, but the committee believed that, Mr. Kizit starts to say. But Lobo slams his fists down again. I got news for you, boob tube. You can put as much lipstick on a pig as your little heart desires. But in the end, committee or not, Lobo's gonna Lobo, he snarls. Finally, he reins in his temper and very gently reaches out and taps Mr. Kizit on one of his screens. What are you doing? Mr. Kizit asks. Lobo shrugs as he walks around the desk. Oh, just checking to see if this meeting was one of those hologram situations, he says with a smile as he cracks his knuckles and stands over Mr. Kizit. Moments later, the window shatters as the executive is thrown through it and plummets to the pavement far below. Lobo stalks from the office and glances at Mr. Kizit's assistant. I'll be expecting the remainder of my contract to be deposited by the end of the week, or I'll be back to give the rest of you the same treatment, he growls at her. She smiles and nods. Very well, Mr. Lobo. I'll see that the funds are transferred myself. I do need to remind you that your costume is property of OOEC and you're not allowed to leave with it, she points out. Lobo shrugs. No problem, lady. Moments later, everyone averts their eyes as Lobo stomps through the main lobby, naked as the day he was born, and without a care in the world. And that was the complete story for Lobo, issue 2 by Skottie Young. Lobo's very short stint as a TV star. Let me know what you thought about it. And let me know down below if you think we should continue this series here on the channel. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.